should be coming out and stuff, like-
Folks, it's 8:35. You want to get going? Madam Clerk, will you call the roll? Want to do a roll call?
Bell.
Here.
Curry. Freeling.
Present.
Harrison.
Here.
Hinkelman.
Here.
Majerick.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Ballrath.
Present.
Purple. Here. Yarborough.
Present.
Elliott.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 12 present.
Thank you. Minutes from the 8th. It says,
So moved.
Support.
all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Those minutes are approved. You meant the 8th, right? Not this one, okay. Well, that's right. We didn't have committee the whole. last
Yeah.
week.
Yeah, I meant the 8.
Okay. Requisition review.
So Annette sent the list out yesterday. Did anybody have any questions?
Question for clarification. 6 vehicles aren't $500,000?
That was the waiver you guys signed last.
Right, but I want everybody to know, it was for 6 vehicles, but it was almost $500,000 was for new vehicle purchase on the budgeted year. It wasn't $500,000 for 6 vehicles, just
Oh,
so everybody knows that.
okay.
Just letting,
The total budget,
Yeah.
clarification, the total budget for the vehicles is in that $500,000.
Right.
Exact figure that's on the requisition. And so the amount of the vehicles wasn't that amount.
wasn't that amount. It comes out of that.
There's some left over.
Right.
We should, Brian. remember
Couple
that,
dollars.
Yeah.
you know, on the, on a full board.
Understood.
It's your new car, right?
Yeah.
Electric.
nice.
It's electric.
Yeah, electric.
Really, like 5 release.
Yes. Okay, so other than that, we're good with the requisitions? Okay, that clarification, I should say. All right, Brian.
All right, members of the board, we have a presentation today. We actually have 2 presentations. I'm going to try to move somewhat swiftly. Before we get started, Annette has been absolutely loaded with anxiety about making sure today goes smoothly. She is on a plane right now heading east for a nice vacation. She has admitted that she'll be streaming today's meeting, making sure that we all behave ourselves. If you could, please look at the camera and wave. Hi, Annette. All right, thank you very much. Today, we've got a slide deck just related to the implementation of the salary study as it relates to non-union staff. To the commissioners that have reached out with questions, thank you very much in advance. To the full group, I'm going to move somewhat quickly through this, just given the amount of activity we have on today's agenda. All right, so the authorizing resolution that's up on the screen relates to PHS. Oh boy. And we're off. I am going to move to the podium.
Try to fix it in the next couple seconds.
Okay.
But yeah, you might have to do your thing. It's frozen. Oh, boy. Tech issues, they're wonder. Oh, I know what we're doing, Brian. Oh my goodness. Here you go. It
Thank you.
works. Yeah, I'm an IT guy, but great fun.
Okay, we're off. Compensation study, just from the slide deck, I wanted to go back in history, just pull a few examples. Going back to January of 18, admin committee was discussing the compensation study, continuing forward into the early parts and the spring of 18. We were working through the process of the discussion at the board level. Authorizing resolution out of the PHS. This is dated July of 18, noting that the last countywide salary study was done 20 years ago. Purpose statement of the compensation salary study is there. It's noted just to attract, retain, and motivate employees. Board of Commissioners has identified the need for the compensation study, be it for the result of the information produced by the study should be used to justify an increase in salary benefits for any groups that is also to be used to redline the salary benefits of any overcompensated positions. Okay, there's the motion vote to proceed. RFP was opened in March of 2019. Commissioner Scott, Commissioner Engelmann offered the other motions. Here's just further evidence of the authorizing resolution. And at this time, it was noted to engage municipal consulting services for completion of the study. That study included 247 job classifications with not to exceed $98,000 for the study. Compensation and classification study final version was received in July of 2020. It contained job analysis, job evaluation, market survey. 11 counties were included. Some of those were Allen, Calhoun, Ingham, Jackson, and then it's noted that both Cass and Van Buren and neighboring counties were included. Focus of the market analysis has been to determine the comparable job market positions and identify a large number of benchmark positions with similar responsibilities. September 14th, 2022. This was a memo written by the PHS committee, just noting that this would be one of the final steps. Of the 264 non-union staff, a total of 17 appointed officials and 111 non-union staff with all the classifications that the study recommends for adjustments. Of the 312,000, thank you. The current fiscal year would have been impacted by about 72,000. That number has changed. And I just want to make clear that that number with each passing day from the issuance of this memo, that 72,000 falls. That would have been based on a week ago's payroll, and now we'd be looking at first payroll in October. It then notes that staff recommends that PHS offer a motion to proceed with the implementation of the study recommendations, and that the authorizing resolution, which is noted there, is P 2209-344, and that resolution seeks to implement the recommendations of the study. Okay, this is where we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, and I'll ask Shelley to jump in here in just a second to explain the implementation of the study. So 111 non-union staff would fall into classifications for adjustments. I've already covered the other cost. It equates to 382,000 in salary expenses out of expenditures of 161 million. That's 161 is your total budget. Approval of the resolution puts it in place, the same thing for non-union staff that has already occurred for union staff that have ratified contracts approved by the board. In response to the board inquiry, the estimated revenue increase that the county will see for the upcoming fiscal year budget is property tax values going up by 7.4%. That translates to roughly 4.5% in taxes, in an increase in taxes. State revenue sharing is also slated to increase by 4.1%. We're going to stop here and take a look at this sample. This is the common question that I've received from the board. How do we seek to implement? Shelley, are you willing to explain this sample?
Sure. So in this example, we just used round numbers. These do not actually reflect step and grade numbers, but we thought it was easier just to use round numbers. So the employee currently makes $30,000. The study recommends that classification go up 1 grade. So we look at what step in those new grades provide an increase and find the step that provides an increase and move them to that step. And then on their normal anniversary date, provided they have a satisfactory evaluation, they would move to their next step. Now, if the board decides to do any cost of living January 1, that's totally at your discretion. So that's not included in here, but that's totally at your discretion.
This is just continuation of what's been noted in the memo. Authorizing resolution is ready for the board's consideration. It is included in today's consent agenda. And that is that.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Question to you, Mr. Chair.
Sir,
Memory serves me correctly, when this salary study was first brought before the board, that you enacted an ad hoc committee to do the study on that. Was that ad hoc committee ever dissolved, or is it still in use? And should not this have gone before that ad hoc committee, which was brought up from many people in the county?
the ad hoc committee was chaired by Bill Chickering, who was then PHS chair. Jim was on it. Bob, I don't remember if you were. Terry was. And Sharon and Carrie and somebody else, I can't remember. But the committee met a couple of times, and then we had an extended conversation in October of 2020. And Chairman Chickering brought that group back together and received additional input from the ad hoc committee and then dissolved it. It had, at that point, fulfilled its purpose. It was like, a rocket letting go of one stage of its rocket, jettisoning that, and then continuing on. So that was dissolved prior to the end of 2020.
Thank you. And I just wanted the rest of the board members and the public to know the process that we had gone through prior to getting to this point.
Yeah, we had received input from the ad hoc group, thanked them for their time and effort, and then moved on. Other questions? Sir?
Brian, does this step get us in line with other counties so we don't start losing all these? Since
So-
we're looking at surrounding counties in the area,
My
so
answer
we
is,
don't lose employees?
my answer would be somewhat obtuse. It helps. I'm not sure that it will prevent people from leaving. We've had a unique situation. We received this document essentially at the start of the pandemic. We have slow walked the document to get to where we're at today, which is the final implementation. I think that some on staff would argue that the document's already out of date. The flip side is, it is a positive step, and it shows the board's commitment to completing the process. So to answer your question, I'm not sure, but I do believe that it will help with employee retention. I do believe that it'll help with recruitment, but I'm not sure it's going to be the silver bullet where everyone stops looking at other positions.
Okay, thank you.
1 second. Point of clarification. When you said surrounding counties, did you mean the counties that are abutting Berrien, or did you mean
That were put in the report?
the comparable, comparable counties? Okay, just, so you're looking at comparables based on payroll and population and so forth.
Yes.
Okay, is that what you were addressing?
Yeah, so as we look at surrounding counties, just in the last week, I've been working through budget sessions with the various departments. And what we're seeing is active recruitment of our staff by other county governments. And I would point to the public defender as a good example of someone that has lost staff to surrounding counties. That's going to continue to happen. And unfortunately, with law enforcement and some of these skilled positions, there's no stopping. Counties will always be competing with one another. The thing that I would stress to you, Sarah, is this step is a final step. It's going to help, It will not be the silver bullet, but it will certainly help.
Right, my basic concern was that we can't even seem to get people to apply because we're so far down on the salary chain to surrounding areas. They come in, they do an interview and basically say, I can go somewhere else and make another county and make $15,000 more. That's just an example.
I guess the flip side to that narrative is over the last several months, through some creative recruiting and some different approaches on what we offer starting employees, we have seen our vacancy rate fall. And the best example is road department. They spent a week at the fair, resulting in, I believe, roughly 15 applicants. Part of that is active recruitment. Part of it is increasing what we offer. So we're now offering for any new staff, if they don't have a CDL, if they agree to stay with us for 2 years, we'll pay for the CDL. They're doing that training through Lake Michigan College. It's a win-win. We're training them locally. We're getting more applicants, and that's helped. We've dropped from roughly 80 vacancies into the mid-60s. Sheriff's another example of someone who's getting creative. He has a total of 6 people in the training academy right now. He's trying desperately to rebuild bench strength as he recognizes he's got some members of his staff who are at the point where they can leave.
Amy,
Yes, maybe I'm wrong, but I see it's been brought to our attention that there's movement within Berrien County. They're being pulled from one place to the other, especially the clerk's office. Are we going to work to get those salaries where they ought to be so that within our own buildings, we're,
Without a doubt, we have a competition amongst our various departments. And that's something that we're aware of. It's something that we can definitely work on. What I would absolutely, with complete respect to the board, what I would ask is get this piece of work done and then allow us time to start focusing on the internal coaching.
thank you.
Jerry,
Thank you very much. I just wanted to make a comment. I want to thank staff for their work on this. And I want to thank the Personnel Committee for their work on this. I know that it was brought to the board's attention last week. And I think because we have a number of new members that weren't in the beginning part of this, it's nice to sort of walk us through. As you can see, even in your presentation, there's some gaps when we're talking about it. And part of it is because of the pandemic. We can see in the headlines that we have a need to address the workforce pressures that we have across the board, not just in our own organization, but throughout the county and the surrounding area. And so I appreciate the work. I've never not been supportive of addressing what's in the compensation study, but I appreciate you taking the time to walk us through it. So thank you.
thank you. Anyone else?
I had one other thing.
Sir.
I just wanted to make a comment. I was not here the day that I was gone from the board when it was voted on, but I would have voted no on it because I strongly believe, and I think this board needs to realize that one of the critical things that was missing in the salary study, in which the administration committee in which I sat on at the time instructed our county administrator to do, that was never done, was the local businesses were not included in that salary study. So everybody needs to realize that can rear its ugly head at another point in time for what we're doing now.
You're talking about the 2019 resolution.
Correct. Yeah.
That predates you.
Right.
Okay, we're right at the point where we need to transition to the next segment. Are you going to have any closing comments?
Yeah, 30 seconds. Okay, so the study is incredibly thick. It involves hundreds of examples. And the person who has worked the most on this from the start end, working directly with the consultant, working with staff, and then at the back end, sitting down with each and every department is Shelley. Shelley has done more on this than the consultant. She's done more on this than anyone in the room. And what I would say to all of you is, if you are ready to get across the finish line and vote on this, the first person that needs a pat on the back is Shelley. She has done a heavy lift on getting this thing done. Mr. Chair, those are my comments.
Go green. Okay, Dan?
Morning, everyone. Well, Sean's helping me set up this presentation. I'm here today to talk about what we're referring to as the Lakeview Trail or Master Trail Plan that encompasses a variety of new investments and developments within the general Harbor Shores region, City of St. Joe, City of Benton Harbor, as well as the newly opened mountain bike trail up at Whirlpool headquarters, which I know a number of you last week attended the ribbon cutting ceremony for. And one of the reason that we're here today, the motivating reason, is we did receive communication via email, a letter authored by Harbor Shores Redevelopment, Cornerstone Alliance, Whirlpool Corporation, Whirlpool Foundation, formally requesting some assistance from the county in helping to complete this overall trails project that's been in the works now, I think since around 2018. I think that's the first time I attended a meeting on it. So it's been a 4-year process or so to try to
Dan,
make this mess.
Let me ask, are there any folks here that you wish to introduce?
I'm going to introduce them right now.
Okay.
Okay, that's where I was going to. So we do have from this collective group that's been working on this. In order, I'll introduce Chris Cook, who is the Managing Director for Harbor Shores Redevelopment, Casey Wagner, representing Whirlpool Corporation, Deb O'Connor, representing the Whirlpool Foundation, Zach Vaughn, representing Cornerstone Alliance, and John Fall, who's been our consultant here working with us on this. John's been an invaluable resource because of his prior experience in trails projects in Kalamazoo County and Van Buren County. So this is the group.
Did they all ride bikes also?
I don't think they all rode. I suspect Casey probably did, but I don't know about the other ones. Jill Adams is here from the Parks Department. She's been involved in a lot of the discussions and planning on this and some of the coordination. So the purpose of this presentation is to talk about what's happened so far with this project, the investments that have been made, and what needs to be done to kind of complete the project over the next few years. And if it looks familiar to you, I think most of you did a tour up at Whirlpool over the summer to see some of the developments going on up there. And you were given a presentation by Mark Richards, who is the head of global real estate. If this looks familiar, it's because I basically stole it from Mark. So it's essentially the same thing you've seen.
So sorry, this is what happened to Brian. There you go. Now you should be good.
My apologies.
This is the letter that we received. It was addressed to the chair. I think I'm going to just read it in its entirety for the audience and for the group because it kind of spells out exactly what's happening here. It says, "Dear Chairman Elliott, we are writing to request Berrien County assistance in applying for and administering various grants to help construct a bike trail along MC63 that'll connect the Lakeview Mountain Bike Trail at Whirlpool Global Headquarters to the existing bike and pedestrian trails within the Harbor Shores project and within the cities of Benton Harbor and St. Joseph. Over the past 3 years, our organizations have collectively invested over $3 million to improve the existing trail system within Harbor Shores and to begin the construction of the recently opened Lakeview Mountain Bike Trail. We are now commencing construction of a trail to connect to Harbor Shores and Whitlawn Drive, along with the infrastructure and roadway improvements on Riverview Drive in Benton Harbor. Additionally, we are supporting the City of St. Joe in their pursuit of approximately $4 million to improve Upton Drive. The construction of the bike and pedestrian trail along M63 is essential to link these current and future public improvements into a unified, multi-jurisdictional public trail system. The state of Michigan offers grant funding to local governments that could help defray the cost of the construction of this M63 trail. Specifically, MDOT offers grants to county governments under its what we call TAP program, Transportation Alternative Program, to help pay for the construction of non-vehicular trails. The Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, EGLE, recently created a grant program using ARPA funds that we refer to as the SPARK program, pardon me, to provide funding for public recreational facilities. We're asking Berrien County to apply for grants through these programs to help construct the M63 trail within the public right-of-way along that road. We are working with additional community partners to develop an independent source of permanent funding to provide for the maintenance of the existing trail system within Harbor Shores and the anticipated M63 trail. And it is our understanding that the acceptance and expenditure of any grant funds by Berrien County will be contingent upon our creation of a funded trail maintenance plan. We appreciate the support the county has provided in this and many other partnerships and look forward to the continuing development of the trail system. So this is the letter we received. I think that kind of spells out exactly where we are right now. What I'm going to do now is just go through some pictures and show you what's happened with this trail system, how it's developed, and where it'll go in the future. Oh, we locked up again here. So now there we go. Now, this is a general statement about the impact of trails, and we see this all over the community, all over the state of Michigan and the Midwest. There's a copious number of studies that show pedestrian trails, non-vehicular paths, non-motorized paths, create certain amenities within the community that are critical for recruiting and attracting talented young workforce. I know Brian has talked to you in the past about, we sometimes feel that we're getting beaten up by Ottawa County because of their aggressive pursuit of these kind of recreational amenities and their ability to recruit new talent as a result of that. So this is an important thing for a community to invest in if the interest is in bringing talented workforce to our area. We also know that just here locally, within the existing population, about 90% of Berrien County residents have, by public opinion poll, indicated that they feel it's very important or extremely important to provide places of outdoor recreation. More than 80% of the residents or respondent residents strongly support or moderately support the development of these trail systems. The project that we're talking about here is supported and consistent with Benton Township's master plan specifically. And these proposals actually align closely with the current work that's being done by the Friends of Berrien County Trails, which is an organization that you have helped fund already, and their master plan is ongoing. Now, specifically the project we're talking about, which is the Lakeview Master Trails proposal, this map is kind of an overall view of what's gone on in the community and what's continuing to occur. But basically, we're talking about 10 miles of new trail construction that's occurring within this geographic area. And additionally, about 20 miles of total interconnected trails. That includes mountain bikes paths, walking paths, non-motorized use paths, multi-purpose paths, and municipal sidewalks. And I don't know if my little arrow works on this thing or not, but perhaps I can just use to orient you. This is the global headquarters. This is the new mountain bike trail up here that many of you saw last week. Of course, this encompasses most of the Harbor Shores project down here, Benton Harbor, St. Joe, Paw Paw River. We extend over to where the Whirlpool North American headquarters is. This, of course, is the reconstruction of the Whirlpool Tech Center, which you did a brownfield plan on last year. And then we have the existing trail system within that general geography. This is a close-up of that mountain bike trail. You can see basically Monty Road and M63, about 2.5 miles north of the trail system of the Harbor Shores project. This is the existing trail system within Harbor Shores. This was constructed over time as the project was built out from 2004 until present. There have been a number of improvements that have been made on this trail system. I should mention, these are all public trails. These are publicly accessible trail, sidewalk, non-motorized paths. And this gives you a kind of a cleaner view of what the trail network within Harbor Shores currently looks like. I do want to point out, and I think we can see it better kind of on this map. In addition to the existing trails within the Harbor Shores project, I said there's going to be improvements along Upton Drive. You can see on the left, that's the $3 million orange highlighted road. And there's a planned $780,000 reconstructive Riverview Drive. That's the green on the right of this map. These two reconstructed roadways will, of course, then link Main Street Benton Harbor and the commercial redevelopment of Benton Harbor through Riverview, down Whitwam Drive to the Harbor Shores project and up to the newly created reconstructed Tech Center. The idea, in addition to that, of course, I think a number of people attended the ribbon cutting ceremony for the water taxi system that you helped fund over the last 2 years. We have dock stations on that water taxi running basically just south of the North American headquarters over to Harbor Shores. We're contemplating 2 additional docking stations along Upton Drive and along Riverview Drive. So you can see what we're doing is trying to connect all of these developments into a unified multimodal transportation system. The goal is to get all of this connected up to the mountain biking trail at the global headquarters so that the whole thing is one unified system. And this is that trail we're talking about. This is the M63 path. It's a 12-foot wide path that will run within the right of way. on the east side of M63, about 2.5 miles from roughly Clock Road up to Monty Road. And that'll bring all of the development that's occurred in the Benton Harbor St. Joe area and connect it into the development that's occurred up at the global headquarters. This project is expected to cost somewhere between $2.8 and $3 million to construct. Now, there are grants available to do this. We're confident that we have compelling applications to receive those grants, and that we will probably be successful in procuring the funds to construct this if you move forward with this project. The key, though, is, and I think this is front on everyone's mind when we deal with these trails projects, who's going to pay for the maintenance of this? So we can build the stuff, but how do we maintain it over its life? And that's true with any development project we work on. What's being proposed here is that Whirlpool will essentially carve off a large portion of their current property up at the global campus and donate that to a 501c3. In this case, we're looking at the Harbor Shores entity that's called the Cornerstone Public Asset Fund, and hold that property for public use. It's no longer going to be private property. It'll be available to the public, held by a nonprofit. That'll include basically the entire mountain bike system. The money that otherwise would have been paid in taxes on the improvement of that private property will then instead go into a maintenance and capital escrow fund over the next 20 years. And we're figuring it's going to be about $30,000 a year of tax revenue that'll be diverted into an escrow fund that'll be held by under the custodianship of probably Whirlpool Community Foundation is what we're looking at. Okay. In addition, Whirlpool is seeking authorization from the foundation to provide an additional $300,000 of seed capital into that maintenance fund. The concept here is that the foundation holds the fund as the custodian and investor of the money, and as the funds are needed for maintenance, they are withdrawn upon demand and used to contract for the maintenance of that asphalt path. We think the maintenance will probably be $15,000 to $20,000 a year maximum. This is identical to, well, not identical, but very similar to the way Kalamazoo County has done their trail system. They were funded by a combination of grants, private donations, and public donations. And then the public nonprofits and private sector benefactors contributed into a foundation to create this kind of escrow account held for investment and custodian purposes, and then withdrawn over time in Kalamazoo County by their Parks Department to contract for the maintenance of those trails. So it's very similar to what we're talking about. And we believe that it'll establish a sizable enough escrow to provide for the maintenance of these systems over the next 20 years. So this is what's been done so far. The trail study has been, for this area, has been completed. The designers and engineers have been engaged. They've designed the thing. There have been about $200,000 improvements to the Harbor Shores trail system as it exists. The mountain bike trail of $1 million is under construction. You've already seen the east side portion of it. The west side portion will be under construction shortly. There will be a tunnel that Whirlpool is actually paying for, and you apply for the permit on this. That'll go under M63, linking the east side of the mountain bike trail to the proposed west side mountain bike trail along the bluff. In addition, the donation of the public park property is in the works right now. The establishment of that seed money for maintenance is being negotiated, and the establishment of the tax deferment into this fund is being negotiated right now. And we hope to have that accomplished by the end of December, I think was the deadline we were looking at. So in total, there's been about a commitment of around $6.9 million, largely through Whirlpool, Cornerstone, and Harbor Shores. The county is being asked to do two things. You've already done one of them, which is to submit for the tunnel permit and the detour signage on the M63 tunnel project. And that was, I believe, approved 3 weeks ago. The second thing you're being asked to do, as I said in the beginning of this, is to apply for and administer the public improvement grants necessary to construct this corridor, contingent upon the establishment of that maintenance escrow fund. The total funds that we're looking to apply for would be about 2.8 to 3 million. There's about $1.5 million available in the MDOT TAP grant program that we think we have a good chance of getting. There are some DNR trust fund grants that we will seek application for, and there's $1 million Spark grant that we're seeking approval on. Now, one thing that still needs to be kind of worked out here, and the reason Jill is here today is the Parks Department will also be applying for some of these funds for independent projects within Silver Beach and other areas. So what we're going to try to do over the next week or two is align these applications to make sure we're not competing against ourselves. The good news is we've confirmed that we can apply for multiple grants within the same pot of money. We can apply for multiple Spark grants and so forth. So the goal, however, is to submit those grants in an order that amplifies or enhances our ability to get both applications approved. So that's where we are. In the next 3 to 4 weeks, you're going to see a series of resolutions coming through Finance Committee and then coming to the board requesting permission to apply for the MDOT TAP grant, the Spark grant, and potentially the DNR Trust Fund grant, once we get these grants ordered and aligned with the Parks Department so that we're complementing and assisting each other on this. That's where the project stands.
Thanks, Dan. Questions, ma'am?
Yes, Dan, would you take it back to where people were walking? What is that?
This?
There, yeah.
That's just kind of a rendering of what we think that M63 corridor trail will look like. It's 12 foot of asphalt, 12 foot wide asphalt running on the east side of M63 up to the global campus.
Because I think about Union Pier and all that has happened there. Will that ever connect or is that too far away? You know, all the work we did there.
The long range vision for the trails network in Berrien County would essentially incorporate that idea. A continuous non-motorized path running from Union Pier all the way up to the North County border.
Indiana.
That's an aggressive, maybe 50-year vision of what needs to be built down here. But this is consistent, at least in part, with that plan, right? It's that Red Arrow Highway M63 trail network running north to south, south to north. So this is at least a portion of what's been proposed.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
How many miles does this incorporate of total trails once this is complete?
I think it's about 20 miles, Chris, isn't that right? When you add it all up? Yeah.
Sir.
It should be noted that, Mamie, your thing about Union Pier is that's not where it starts. That trail will start in Chicago.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right.
And it comes all the way through and then it comes across the state line next to my house, the Marquette Greenway in, and then it'll continue up the Red Arrow. But I had a question.
Sure.
I don't want to be the damper, but I have to ask the question. Are you asking for the county to apply for the grants and be the administrator of the grants? And if so, is this going to cost the county via taxpayers' money out of the general fund for these trails?
No,
All
we're
right,
not contemplating any county contribution for match because we believe that the investments that have been made already count as the match to those grants.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm good.
Jim and then John.
The $30,000 for maintenance sounds like a PILT to me. We do PILTs with other organizations, correct? So that's not something new. It's not something that we're getting into at this point because we do PILTs with other, well, I'm thinking of the casino for one. We do a lot with them.
Yeah, no,
So this 30,000, because you're taking tax dollars and putting it towards maintenance of, can we treat it like a PILT?
it's very similar in concept to what a PILT would be, but it wouldn't legally be considered a PILT because that can only be done via certain statutes. But what essentially is what's happening is to get the property off of Corners or Whirlpool's asset sheet, they want to put it into a nonprofit. They want that nonprofit to hold the property and make it available to the public as basically public benefit land. In doing so, that makes it non-taxable. In this situation, what Whirlpool is saying is we understand it's going to be non-taxable, but we're willing to continue to essentially make those tax payments, but in the form of a maintenance fund. So you're right in that it mirrors what you would see in a PILT. This is really something that happens just between Whirlpool, the nonprofit, and the foundation that accepts the funds, though. The county would not be seeing this money move back and forth.
Okay, so that's not something we would approve. We won't see that in a resolution.
No.
Okay, great. Thank you.
John.
Confidence level on getting the grants and backup plan if you don't get them.
Well, right now, we're pretty confident. We think this is a compelling project. We think it has enough public, nonprofit, and corporate support that, I mean, I do believe it's gonna be a compelling application. In addition, because it links all of these other investments that have already been made. We're not just building a trail for no purpose. We're building it in order to bring all of these 20 years worth of public and private investments into some, knitted master plan. So I think we're gonna have good applications. If we don't succeed, we'll just keep trying. We've been through this before. Sometimes you don't get it the first round, you go for the second round. In the case of the Spark grant, I believe there's gonna be 3 rounds of funding on this over the next 18 months. So we'll keep trying at it. With the MDOT grant, I'm pretty confident we're gonna get that because this is exactly what that MDOT grant is set up to do, which is to move vehicular traffic off the roads and make people, or, move that into an assisted process where it's non-vehicular traffic. So it matches, it aligns perfectly with what the grant is set up to do.
We do have a good history with MDOT. 25 years ago, I think we first started doing economic development requests, applications with them, which paid for road and infrastructure improvements at Fairplain.
Right.
Target project, Lowe's, all of that connecting up to Meyer was done with help from MDOT, and that was initiated by the county on behalf of Benton Charter Township. Sir.
I have a question, not to put this person on the alert, but does Rocky, have any qualms about any of these trails and things that are going in from the Emergency Operations Command Center?
No, not that.
All right.
Speaking of Rocky, we need to hear from Rocky briefly on something involving EOC. Rocky, you want to fill us in quickly? Thanks, Dan.
Well, what Rocky is heading up towards the microphone. The board has an added resolution for today. We've asked Captain Adams to speak with admin and then to hang out and be available for the full board. What's being asked is to continue seeking offsetting funds from the state of Michigan. Roughly 30% of his wage would then be paid by the state. Hey, Captain Adams.
What he said.
And we're not meeting next week, and this has a October 1st deadline, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. So unfortunately, we had a tight deadline on that to get it done, and because of next week's
They gave us 3 days.
lack of, So I apologize for having to squeeze it into the agenda later, but that's what it is.
And just as way of background on this, there is no out-of-pocket expense on this. We have in-kind as the local match. This is one that we have done year after year, and it is a way to offset some of the costs of the leadership payroll from the Emergency Operations Center.
Is everybody okay with that? Yeah. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
We need to. We need to do public comments, other business, and then get on to committees. So any public comments?
I have some.
Yes, sir. Tell us your name and where you're from.
Paul Bailey, Sheriff. I live in Berrien County. I just wanted to let you know, as Brian talked about Berrien County recruiting people, it's not just here. I think our staff does a great job countywide trying to recruit and get people to come here and work. But just understand that every county is having the same problem. Kalamazoo County is down 17 deputies on the road, 30 in the jail. Okay, they pay more than we do. They're still having a problem. We're having problems all over the country getting people into law enforcement. Kalamazoo County commissioners just are giving a 13.5 raise to recruit more people to get into law enforcement. So we'll see if money, it will help them fill those positions, or they're still going to have problems getting people to get into law enforcement because we're having a heck of a time. Niles City is down 4 officers, Benton Harbor's down 10, Benton Township's down 8, Cass County's down 9, and Van Buren County, they're doing pretty good, they're down 2. We're down 6 right now, but I got 6 in the academy. They will get out in December, but they won't be ready until April, until they go through the FTO program. Going to send 4 to 5 because we have more retirements coming up, because we're not getting any applications. When I talk to all these other chiefs and sheriffs, they're not getting any applications. So we got to go out and recruit people. People ask, go to the academies. Everybody in the academies are being sponsors now. There's nobody to recruit because they're getting hired by a department and sent through the academy. Like we're sending 6 right now through. I called down to St. Joe County. They're 30 short in the jail, and they're 6 short on the road. So they're having the same problems, just giving you an understanding that when it comes to law enforcement, it's not just Berrien County that's having problems. The entire state and the entire county's having problems getting people into law enforcement.
Thanks,
One of our
Sheriff.
points of discussion
Thank
up
you.
at the back conference this week was law enforcement, the problems that we're having in the state, you know, and I can't remember the number of officers, but they're talking Wayne County's over 30% down, and they just can't make any trouble in getting officers.
So just wanted to give you that update. You know, we'll see if the increase Kalamazoo's doing, if those vacancies will start to be filled with the increase in salary.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? Any other business? Hearing none, we'll break and come back at 10:30.